All right, class. Welcome back to Coach Campbell's Super History channel. And we're going to kick it off with Unit 2. We are in standard number 6, and we're going to analyze the accomplishments and challenges of the first 5 presidents. And of course, we're going to start this video off with a learning target, and it's all about the first president, George Washington. So we're going to examine the challenges and the accomplishments of his presidency. And let's begin. All right, so George Washington's presidency was all about setting precedents, not presidents, but precedents. And precedents can be defined as the one who sets the example for all the ones who are going to follow. So the word is precedence, Precedents. All right, and he was the first president, so of course he's setting the example for all the presidents to follow. And the first precedent that he sets is that he is going to come in and create the first presidential cabinet. All right. So, and the interesting thing about his cabinet is that he brought 2 advisors on that basically had opposing views. One was Thomas Jefferson, who was an anti-federalist, and he was going to be the Secretary of State. And then he also used Alexander Hamilton, who was a Federalist. And you know that as far as the Federalists believe, that the anti-federalists really were suspicious of the U.S. Constitution, that they felt that it did not put the necessary restrictions and laws on the government, and that it would eventually abuse the power going against the people. And the Federalist, Thomas Jefferson, who would become the Treasury Secretary, and he believed that the Constitution was good as it was, and he was also one of the main writers of the Federalist Papers. All right, so we see this precedent coming into play, and basically even as today, where it's even more extensive. The cabinet of the presidency includes a great deal more offices. We can see that even with the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of Education, Secretary of Labor, the Secretary of the Homeland Security. You have a bunch of advisors that the president will be looking towards to be advised on certain situations. All right, so precedent number 2. He gives the first State of the Union speech. All right, this tradition is still in place today. A lot of times when presidents are coming in as president, they're going to come in and they're going to talk about the state of the country, the condition of the country. So he's going to talk about the good things. He's going to talk about the things that that needs improvement, and he's also going to possibly give his solution on how those things are going to be accomplished. All right, so he gives the first State of the Union speech not too long ago, and I guess this is going to date it, but President Biden gave a State of the Union speech as well. But as far as I can remember, every president that I've seen has given the State of the Union speech. All right, precedent number 3 is the Proclamation of Neutrality. Now, President George Washington was very big on making sure that we stay out of the affairs of other countries, especially those European countries like France as well as Britain. During his presidency, one of his challenges is that Britain and France are back at war, and we have to deal with that because we are trading with France at that time. We are having some negotiations to trade with Britain as well, but this is causing a conflict, and we're a new country, and he believed that if we made any type of personal permanent alliances with any of these European countries, that will automatically bring us back into a war. And we're just years away from the American Revolution, and that would, something like that would put us further in debt. Especially around this time, our country was in heavy debt. Our currency was very low, and we were dealing with all those things. So he started the Proclamation of Neutrality, and we even see this get strengthened under the Monroe Doctrine. And this precedent actually lasts for almost 100 years until we get to the Spanish-American War. And also, it really deteriorates as far as us remaining neutral with these foreign European countries, and World War One. We're not doing a very good job of that today, but this was a precedent that he set, and I'm hoping that we'll eventually get back into using. All right, so precedent number 3, he comes and he gives the first farewell address, and this is another long-standing tradition and a time for the exiting president to thank the people who had voted for him and allowing him to serve over the last 4 to 8 years, depending on how long they're in office, and also a time for them to pass the torch to the next incoming president. All right, so in George Washington's his farewell address, he hit 3 key points. The one was stay neutral and avoid permanent alliances with other nations. We did a great job for many years. We tended to our own business. We worked domestically to build up our infrastructure, but at some point we felt like we needed to get back in. But it was a great precedent to have. And we saw a great deal of wealth in that, prosperity in that as well. And we stayed out of, other than the Civil War, we weren't brought into any other wars. All right. Farewell, key note number 2. He believed that good government should be based on religion and morality. Once again, I don't think we're doing much of a great job at that as well, but this is a long-standing, and I think it wasn't, I forget when prayer was officially taken out of school, but this was a long-standing tradition that basically went on for over 100 years. All right, and the third key point under in his farewell address, that he spoke about the dangers of forming political parties. He warned that political parties would cause people to work for their special interest rather than for the public good. Now, immediately after he gets out of being a president, John Adams, we see the formation of the political parties, and we have been terrible in this area ever since. So we see that because if you look at the condition of our political system now, the back and forth, the backbiting, all those things, it's not good. All right. So, and I believe that we're not really working in the best interest of the people as well. All right. Precedent number 4. This is one that I think is probably the most important. But George Washington sets the precedent for presidents only serving 2 terms. This longstanding tradition or precedent that he set went on for many years, and a law was not passed until 1951 with the ratification of the 22nd Amendment that basically stated that a president could only serve 2 terms. Under certain conditions, you can possibly go past that, but that was the precedent set by George Washington at that time. All right, so let's talk about some of the challenges that he also faced. Now, I mentioned one earlier, was that Britain and France were back at war. So this was messing with our economic system, because we were trying to develop an economic system. We weren't under the mercantilism system anymore. So therefore, we had to create our own trade, avenues of trade and economic system. And of course, we just got out of the war with Britain. So guess what? They're not too reluctant on trying to help us out. As a matter of fact, Britain technically doesn't really leave this area, this hemisphere of North America. They're just right in Canada, and they're also not too far past the Appalachian Mountains. So there's an ongoing threat with them being around as well. All right. So also we see Hamilton's economic plan. Hamilton comes in and he wants to put tariffs on imports. One of the things that he wanted to do was basically encourage the citizens to begin manufacturing their own goods. But he kind of goes a little left and immediately feels it when they try to put a tax on whiskey. And the Southerners who were making this whiskey at this time really wasn't feeling it, and they began to go after the government. And we see this as the Whiskey Rebellion. Now, one of the things that we saw in Unit 1 was that the government did not have the power to stop these things with, these type of uprisings with Daniel Shay's rebellion. But under the new Constitution, George Washington was able to form a military to go and stop these farmers and this rebellion from basically going into coming into fruition. He was able to put a halt to it, but it did show that the government did have the power to do these things, but it also made many side with Thomas Jefferson and his form of democracy, and stating that basically that our government was actually becoming tyrannical in just a short period of time. But these are some of the things that we got to remember about George Washington's presidency. One of the things that I'm pretty sure that you're going to see are the precedents, and if anything, they're going to talk about Daniel Shay's rebellion and how he was able to handle that. But once again, my next video is going to be about John Adams. So we're going to look and briefly go through his presidency. He was only a one-term president, so it's not much to talk about, but there is. So once again, thank you for hanging out with me. This is Coach Campbell's Super History channel, and this is for all my Georgia EOC students, and as we get prepared and review for the EOC. All right, once again, thanks a lot for joining me, and don't forget, history are doomed to repeat it.